we'll switch it up to the other section, because a lot of you guys are in fact like you have signed up, you have a special role now, so you can see above this whole the outpost category, there's another category called community patch. In there's a text channel saying get more roles. If you go there, you can say what you are good at, right? What you are going to be able to contribute to the patch with, whether it's C++, mapping, image editing, whatever. So yeah, basically, I can say that the first iteration of the patch, we're going to try and fix some crucial bugs. So, for example, we're aiming to do things like fixing the Alt-Tab crash bug. That's a very popular one. We might look into doing some feature stuff, maybe, if it's easy. So, for example, a lot of you guys know that multiplayer, you can play it and you have the 60 FPS camera. You know, the game engine logic is still 30 FPS, but because the camera is FPS unlocked, it feels nice and smooth. But single player doesn't have this. So if there's a nice, easy way we can enable it for single player, then again, we'll do that, which I see Sketch TV is also here. I'm sure he'll be happy to hear something like that, because the single player experience will just much more smooth and stuff like that. Yeah.
Zezon, can we take Zezon up here? I think he's in the chat.
Sure. Can you do that actually? Because I can't find him, man. There's so many icons.
I can find him, but I can't bet him, I think.
How do we do that?
Sure, I can do that.
Is there a command or something that I can just like type his name? Oh, you're gonna do it, Arctic? Use bottom left says.
If he stops moving in the thing, I'm gonna have
right. So good. Oh, thank you. If you tag him, you can just right mouse click his name and then do invite to speak. Thank you, Pret, for that. Okay. So yes, Zezon also is going to be an important person in this whole development. We'll be looking to work together, and that's the goal here. We still need to sort out and align, see exactly how our things align, because there's the super hackers crew that have already started on some fixes and things, and hopefully we can work together and integrate with them, so there won't be any double work, right? That is the plan. I did have a chat. Zezon is here now. We can have a quick discussion on this as well. I just had a chat with the other guys, and you know, we're happy to integrate, but I think it's good if we, from our side and you from your side, if we map out what we have in mind for the near future, medium future, just so we make sure that we don't cause any weird overlaps. So I think that's a good idea, right, Zezon?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm not sure if I understand the question. Sorry.
As in, because the super hackers, they're focusing on purely the game engine and the game assets and things like that, right? Whereas the community patch that we'll be making will also start looking at potential new features to be added. As far as I understand, you guys will be focusing just on the game engine side of things and not necessarily on adding new features, right?
It's a mixed bag. It really depends on the desires that we need to implement. Like what does a patch need to have? Like engine can and game can, the code can implement anything, and you can make everything opt-in. So like if there's a desire from mods and from patch to say, okay, we want this kind of thing, then it can be implemented, but it can still be disabled, right? So you could have like a command line argument that opts it in, or you can have an ini setting in gamedata.ini that enables something. So there's total freedom to do anything.
Okay. I still think it's good if after the meeting we'll sort some things out. Just kind of create sort of like some roadmaps and plans that we can, you know, work together and make sure that, you know, there's basically just no double work, right? That we're not doing things that you guys are already working on as well. And it will probably make sense for us to also contribute directly on the super hackers repo of GitHub. You know, just have proper good collaboration like that. That sounds good, right?
Yeah, I think what we need to do is we need to figure out what should be the early goals be, and then like how do we best implement them based on the things we have. So, for example, there could be that we say, okay, we create a new branch or a new repository, and maybe we just cherry pick certain things to get started with, or we say we disable a whole bunch of things and strip it down directly in what is already there. So there are different strategies, but basically you need to define what we want to do, what the early goals should be, and then we see how we can best do it. And my expectation also is that there are probably also a lot of things that I'm not sure in the upper management here. Are any of you like programmers, C++ programmers?
I'm not, as in I'm a developer. I have some C++ experience, but I'm not planning to spend many hours doing C++ code myself. I have enough knowledge that I can read the code, but that's probably where it ends. So I might be able to do some reviews maybe. But we do have Inhibition on our team, and he's going to be one of our main guys. So currently the main guys are Arctic, Red versus Blue, Inhibition, and myself. And yeah, that's sort of our crew where we'll start with. But we'll basically see where things go as well. So I think all in all, if we work together, we should actually not really have any issues. It should go quite smooth, I imagine. There's quite a few C++ developers who have signed up. I've pinged people in the thing to get them to assign the role. Let me see. We have in total 8 people have marked themselves as being advanced C++ developers. So we will have access to some good people who will help. And I think on the whole, that should make things pretty smooth, right?
Yeah, and I think we should also aim to share resources where possible. So as Leggy already mentioned, some issues that we'll run into have fixes that should definitely be applied towards the efforts that Sezon is working on right now with the Super Hackers repo.
Yeah. So basically, I know we talk a lot about C++ and C++ devs, but it's not only C++ people that we need. We need a variety of people in, a varied amount of skill sets and things. For example, we're also happy to have mappers in case there are like bugs in, for example, single player missions. Like those are very easy. We can already go and fix those. And for that, mappers will be very useful. Things like that, just as an example. And that's why it's very good if we get a very nice, varied skill set, like from all the people. That's why we also have the reaction. So again, for those of you who are just joining now, if you haven't reacted on the Get More Roles channel, that is literally above this section, go do so. And it'll help us organize all the people, because I know there's a lot of people here on the stage. It says 181 people are here. Not everyone is dev, okay? It's only for people who have signed up to be part of the development process. But we have literally assigned that role, that development role, to like 170 people or something. So we're going to have a lot of people, which is good. So right now, we're kind of categorizing everyone, seeing what we can do. And then we'll start putting out a list of tasks. So like I said, for example, if we can get that 60 FPS for single player, for example, we'll just put out that as a task, see who's interested in working on that, and see if we can get like a team of people going on that. We'll also be looking for the more advanced people to act as tech leads as well, who might then have a small cluster of other developers working together with them. So that would be, that's one of the ideas. VOG asks, will we get a task management system? Yeah, we'll have something like that. I think for now, we'll just start with Discord and we'll take it from there. I don't know if we're going to move everything to GitHub. There's a good chance we will, but we're still sorting things out ourselves, because you can imagine this is big news, and a lot of it is coming straight at us, and we're doing our best to process everything and get everything done. And I think we'll succeed. We'll manage. But yeah, so if you guys have any suggestions, if you say, listen, I'm a professional C++ developer, this, that, I found that this works really well for code development, then share that information with us so we can have a look, we can decide and see if that's going to work. So we've looked at GitHub. We have looked at a few other things as well, potentially to use. So we're still busy making a decision on that, but that will happen in the coming days. But yeah, until then, if we can have everyone at least categorized in their skill sets, that will already help a lot, because then we'll just tag everyone and be like, okay, guys, there's this. Go get yourselves involved. Yeah, Sorcerer posted the screenshot there. Thank you. Can we use AI to translate code? No. AI is nice, but when it comes to this kind of stuff, it's not advanced enough that we can just unleash AI and we're good. So, is that. RVB, do you have anything you would like to add, or Arctic so far?
We have a couple of questions from people.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, just interrupt me if there's questions, because I'll just keep yapping, man. You got to interrupt me. It's just.
I'm just going to start then. So there's somebody asking, how do you plan on adding critical fixes like netcode while maintaining compatibility with 1.04?
Yeah, so that's basically the thing. We're going to focus on compatibility in the beginning, in the early stages. That's when it's most crucial, because that way people will have an easier time adopting the community patch and going from there. And you can kind of see it like how nowadays almost everyone uses Gentoo, right? If Gentoo were to, theoretically, I'm saying, add in a complete new multiplayer server right now, then most people would already be able to play with that, because most people are on Gentoo anyway. So we're going to try and copy that sort of idea. We're going to start by getting people acquainted with the community patch, boost it, promote it, get people on it. And then over time, then we can make the decision to break compatibility with 1.04 or 1.05. There is also the option that we really go on the extreme side of things, and instead of breaking compatibility, we will just have our community patch detecting other people have community patches, and then through communication that way, there's a new system that will be used. So if you play with original 1.04, there will still be compatibility. Is a possibility we'll go down that route. But yeah, when we're at the stage where we're going to create a whole new multiplayer server and all those things, yeah, it's a couple of months later down the line. So we'll see where we're at that point in time. But our main focus here, guys, absolutely important. Our main focus is to keep the community happy and satisfied, to make sure that people don't feel like we're breaking things or ruining things or splitting communities or things like that. We really, really are going to make it our mission not to do that, okay, at all. So there's that.
Okay. Second question was, what are the chances for EA to release the community patch officially through EA?
0, because I don't think they can just randomly take what we're making and then putting that inside the Steam main download. I had a chat with CC Hyper about half an hour ago or an hour ago. And he basically said that if EA wants to use community code, then the community needs to approve that to EA. They cannot just take anything that we create and insert it into their executable. So realistically, what's going to happen is General 0 Hour is going to roughly stay in the state that it is, but then the community patch will come in, which will be one way to fix, all the problems we have, add the features we want, etc., etc.
It will basically mean having things like contracts set up if it was supposed to be an official code release.
Yeah, I don't know if they're even interested in doing that. They might just be happy leaving it because, less work for them, right? If we're going to then become an official thing, I think legally also it's going to be a lot more hassle. So, yeah.
Okay. Another question is, so pro rules forever, no nerf to alpha roars. I think this is aiming at creating custom rule sets or something the like.
Yeah, so another big thing that is often discussed is balance. So, we say the word balance, but what we really mean is modification of units and behavior and things like that, right? We're not going to touch that for a while, because the moment we touch that, the moment we change one behavior of one unit in any way, shape, or form, give it more health, make it cheaper, make it slower, faster, or make Auroras vulnerable when they're supersonic. Any change is going to automatically result in incompatibility with 1.04, 1.05. That doesn't mean we will never look at balance. It'll be a thing that we will deal with as well. Just like how eventually we'll do the multiplayer servers, eventually we'll do graphics upgrades, we'll also eventually tackle balance. But at this stage, at this point in time, going for balance changes is dangerous, because if we do that, we basically are already going to split off from regular 1.04 and 1.05, which will most likely greatly frustrate the players, because, you know, then they'll be like, yeah, let's, it's going to be hard, because if they want to play with their friends, they have to make sure everyone's on the community patch, or else things don't work. So there's that. But eventually we'll get to it. And we're also going to be very careful when it comes to balance. This is also something that's been raised. Like, balance is a very complicated thing. We have some ideas on how to deal with it in a way that everyone is happy. But again, that is stuff that is going to be dealt with in the future. And we're saying like literally months from now. But again, like I said, making the promise here, guys, our focus will be on keeping the community happy. We are not going to try anything that could split or cause divisions or issues with people playing on the older version. At least not this year, right? Or maybe not even next year. Maybe in like 3-4 years from now. If everybody's on the community patch anyway, then we can have those discussions. But until then, we really don't want to break any sort of compatibility.
And I think some of the balance issues are partially subjective as well, which is what makes them very tricky and controversial to deal with.
In what sense?
Well, some people might not agree that a specific balance issue is actually... some people might not agree that a specific balance issue is an issue at all. Right? In that sense.
I guess. All right. Were there any other questions, or?
We got a bunch of other questions still left, yeah.
Okay.
So one is from Jacob. He asks if playing 3 versus 350k, I think this is just aiming at having more than 8 players in the game. If it's possible to make this happen, and if it's also possible to combat the 1,000 unit limit.
Yeah, let me try and tackle all these types of questions, because I think I'm seeing a bit of a pattern here. Guys, anything that you can think of, the answer is most likely yes, we can do it. So anything you can think of, whether it is VR, okay, or whatever, anything you can think of, theoretically it's possible. That's the answer. For now, there's no point in us discussing what will happen in the far future, because, like I said, we have our short-term goal, which is to get the patch out with a bunch of essential crash bugs fixed and things like that. That is our main focus. And ideally, for this meeting, I'd like to focus on that. We can fantasize about all the crazy cool things we can do, and the answer is yes, theoretically, we can do all these crazy cool things, such as 100-player free-for-all with, you know, map sizes that are 30 times larger than the largest map you know. And yes, these are all theoretically possible, but at this stage in time, we don't really gain much by talking about those things. Yes, mismatches can be fixed. Everything can be fixed. Yes, that's all yes. But again, for where we are right now at this point in time, it's not gonna, like, we don't really gain much by discussing those things now. That's something for the future.
I did also want to add, just to be clear, like, some of these things are theoretically possible, but that doesn't mean that they will ever happen, right? So some things like VR, if there's 3 people asking for them, but it will take weeks or months to develop, I don't know. Maybe we won't spend time on it. That's the reality of things, of course.
Well, I say the word theoretical because that's what it is, right? Because somebody has to spend the time to do it. And if some C++ developer says, hey man, you know what? I love VR. I'm just going to spend 6 months straight getting all that stuff done, everything that needs to be involved to get it done. I'm going to go on it and we're going to do it. Then yes, there's going to be VR. But if nobody is interested in doing that, or if we put our priorities elsewhere, then yeah, it might take a very long time before we see that kind of feature, or simply like what Arctic's saying, not at all. So guys, just keep that in mind. But that's what I mean about the whole fantasizing things. We should look at what is attainable within the next few months and work towards those next few months. And then once we've reached that milestone, we'll look again at the next few months and see what we will implement then. And to kind of give you guys an idea of the order of things we're going to do things in, we'll probably do the first patch that will focus on basically bringing the game to the standard that we know and that we like it. So, for example, I'm sure super hackers are already working on some of these things, like natively putting in widescreen, even the zoom thing that Gentool adds. Those are like really nice things. We might also jump into creating like some anti-cheat code, start with that as well. We'll be working on alt-tab, crash bug, 60 FPS for single player, things like that. Maybe we can even add some other things that the camera moves even smoother, even nicer, some small things like that. That's probably that's our starting focus. Then the next focus will be anything else that pops up and things that will need our attention. And then we'll probably start looking at like larger things afterwards. Most likely it will start with the multiplayer, because one of the most common complaints from the community right now is that there's such a division in the multiplayer sphere, where there's you got Radmin, you got Game Ranger, you got CNC Online, and then you got different Radmins in different places. Having one large server where everybody can hook into and play and be safe, okay, because that's important, because Game Ranger isn't safe, then that would already be a big plus. So that will be one of the next like things that we'll work on. One of the things, yeah. And then eventually, after those important things are done, then we can look into the more fun, cool stuff that aren't really necessary, but we just like to have, right?
A couple of people also are asking when the first patch update is gonna come. I think this is gonna be also we can rephrase that into, are we gonna have little droplets of patches, or are we gonna work on a big patch and release it somewhere later?
I think we will work on it and release it when it's done. I think that's the simplest answer. I know that's always a horrible answer to hear, but we're gonna try and work quickly, but we're not gonna rush things and break things. So my guess is I was hopeful that maybe it was around a few weeks. RVB told me, no, Leggy, you're crazy. It's going to be at least a month. So somewhere around that region is like probably our first release date for our first sort of combined community patch release that you can then install. So yeah, that's sort of that. When it comes to the further releases after that, we'll just see what makes the most sense regarding our workflow. By then, when we make our first release, we'll probably already have a feel of what we should and shouldn't do. My guess, and just a guess at this stage, I really don't know, is that probably every few weeks to few months, somewhere in that bracket, a new update will come. And that's my guess. I don't know, but we'll have to see, guys. So this is not 100% set in stone. But just to kind of give you guys an idea of where, at least I believe it might go. I also have a question from Wild Communist saying, has there been a successful compilation of the source code so far? I think there has, right? Arctic and Setson, you guys know, right?
Yeah, there have been multiple people, like Jay Marshall, for example, who jumped really quick at the code and upgraded it to Visual Studio 2022. And they're also already doing stuff with it, testing things and fixing things here and there. On the Super Hackers repository, we go very slow right now. Omniblade is investigating setting up proper build pipeline with CMake. Right now, the goal is that we can build it with Visual Studio 6 with the least amount of changes to the source code. So ideally, we would start with a simple ability to compile as the original developers would have compiled this, so that really we touched nothing. Because I think there's also value in being cautious, careful with the changes that we put in, because we really don't want to risk breaking anything. I think there's a good chance that touching a lot of things will actually make a lot of things easier. From what I've seen so far, there's like easy to run into memory corruptions when you run it against address sanitizer. So yeah, there's probably a wealth of errors that you quickly see once you run a modern compiler. But yeah, still, we need to be careful to not just get rid of things that we think are unnecessary or that we temporarily disable, and then maybe they have catastrophic consequences. So a careful approach, I think, is the right course of action here. And yeah, that's it.
I also have a question here. What are the ideas to bring the individual developers together? Are there going to be some task forces to tackle specific issues, or how do you plan to group up the work? That's a question by Hippie Croc.
Somebody also asking between if they can like also sign up for creating individual task forces, adding to this question.
Basically, at this stage, we're gonna see all the people who signed up and who have assigned themselves the roles for C++ and whatever. The idea is that we'll be checking in with some of those more advanced people, and then ask if they're willing to be like tech leads on certain things, like if they want to be involved in that way, whether they want to have other people working with them, but they'll be the like mini in charge, let's put it that way. And then we will have a list of things that need to be done, like the alt-tab, crash bug, whatever. We will approach people and say like, hey guys, what do you want to work on? Is there anything that jumps out to you? So the idea is that we'll have like mini clusters of teams working, mini task forces like that. If people have their own thing that they want to work on and it coincides with the philosophy that we're doing, yeah, that's great. So let's say, I don't know, let's say there's a weird bug. I'm just going to make something up, right? I'm making this up. Let's say the alternative mouse buttons for some reason don't work, right? If somebody says, oh, I want to fix the alternative mouse button setup thing, you know, it's like, okay, that is not a priority for us. But if you want to do that and it doesn't break compatibility with 1.04, 1.05, then yeah, of course, it's going to help because it's going to be another fix. So it's going to be a bit like that. But if somebody says, oh, I want to, I want to come in with my friend as a mini task force and I want to deal with some balance issues, then currently at this point in time, that is not going to be a priority. So then in that sense, no, it wouldn't work well together. That being said, though, it's we're going to be operating as Community Outpost, doing some changes, and we're also going to be operating as the super hackers, because we will be working with super hackers for like fixing game things and things like that. And then there's the Community Outpost side, let's say Community Patch side, that brings those changes over from the super hackers and adds some things on top of it. So that's the idea then. So you can sort of see where you want to look. The super hackers are focused strictly on game fixes and game related things, and for the Community Outpost thing, it is also that, but not as much. It's more about like the layer on top of that. So any features that we'll be adding, such as more like potentially anti-cheat servers that we might integrate and things like that. So yeah, that's basically that.
Short yes or no question. Will Generals receive fixes too? So the vanilla game, they updated it to patch version 1.09.
Yeah, we probably, yes. I mean, at this stage, we're still kind of looking into everything, but the game is not 100% the same. It's not, but I'll be honest, if we find like the alt-tab crash bug fix, it probably will also apply to Generals. You know what I mean? So yeah, probably yes. But our focus will likely be on 0 hour, but yeah, I imagine CCG as well.
And you were joking about a hypothetical alternative mouse setup bug, but it does behave differently in Generals than 0 hour, so that's also something that's weird.
Well, there you go. If a task force wants to get on that.
Right. To the people who have a physical copy of 0 hour, how would the process to transfer to 1.05 and or the community patch future patches?
So eventually the plan is that it'll be accessible for everyone, the community patch at least. And yeah, I don't know how it's going to go down with 1.05. As far as I know, 1.05 will be available for download at some point in the relatively near future. I see CC Hypers here. I'm not sure if he wants to have a chat about that, or if he can have a chat about that. I can do invite to speak. But
just wanted to listen in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine too. It's up to him. But yeah, so the plan is that, like I said, our philosophy is that we want to try and get the whole community happy, everyone. And there's plenty of people who have the game on CD. I have the game on CD as well. And I use it for the longest time on CD. And it's not that we're suddenly going to alienate those people. We want it really to be one big, good community effort.
As I understand, only the game's SDK, I think it's Software Development Kit, was open sourced, while the engine on which the game runs remains proprietary.
No,
What challenges
everything's
does-
open.
Okay, what challenges does this introduce for development, particularly when upgrading netcode, graphics, and other core systems that may reside within the engine source code rather than the game itself?
There's no problem. The only small hiccup at the start is that we need to stop or drop in the required libraries and hopefully make it compile 100% to the original. And from that point onwards, it's 100%, everything's accessible.
About all those dev tools in sources, will there also be some works on making sort of SDK based on those tools for community mod devs? For example, the GUI editor, particle editor, and enhanced world builder. I can say I also have like a big list of changes for the world builder, for example. So I think this is gonna be a yes, right?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's all accessible. That's all open source as well, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a wealth of tools within the same source code release, tools that we also have never seen before. So I think this is very exciting.
And then,
Yeah.
of course, the obligatory question somebody had to ask, of course, is Dominator gonna help with organizing a unified effort?
I don't know. You'll have to ask him.
I
mean,
can say something to this because I just talked with the Dominator before this, and I think we would probably so I talked to him a bit about like also balance and other things, and to me it sounds like he's also very conservative about things, and I think all the expert players in his realm are. And so I think he will be very pleased with the approach that Legionnaire is aiming for. And so I expect that he will also be very interested in helping out where he can. That's my expectation.
okay. No, that's good. I haven't spoken with him directly about the community patch effort. I've spoken with him about a few other things, and we had a little celebration of woohoo, source code, happy times. But I don't know. I haven't spoken with him directly. So, but yeah, I think Tsetson is right there. He is just like most of the top players. They're not sure how to feel about any balance changes that might happen because they're used to the game as it is. And if suddenly a lot of things get changed, they might not be too comfortable with seeing too many changes all at once. But that's the thing. We're not going to do any balance changes for the next, I don't know, for maybe even for this year. There's plenty of other stuff we're going to focus on first. And then once we get to balance, we will very carefully tackle that, very carefully. I see a message from CC Hyper. He says 1.05 is not quite finished, depending on Steam Workshop integration growing to support mods. Ooh, okay, nice. I would focus on keeping compatibility with 1.04, as I intend to not modify game files officially. Once 1.05 is finished, the changes will be pushed up to GitHub for your team to integrate into your port. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, that's good. So there's going to be, so that repository will be updated then. Okay. All right. No, thank you for the message there.
That's all the
Let's see.
questions I have right now.
Sorry?
That's all the questions I have right now collected.
Okay. So basically, right now I'm seeing that from the people who signed up, we have 11 people who have marked themselves as being advanced C++ programmers, 32 people who are intermediate C++ programmers, which is very good news. We'll come up with a list of tasks that we have in mind. For example, we also want to add in some more diagnostics and things if possible. And then we'll be probably sharing our manpower with the Super Hackers crew to try and get that repository to be a nice, shiny, beautiful version of the game with very few, like all the crash bugs fixed, ideally, right? While retaining compatibility, and that is basically where we'll start then. Let's see, is there anything else that we need to specifically mention? Oh, right, yes. Basically, if anybody has like an area of expertise where you notice there are bugs or issues in the game, and you know that changing those things will not cause issues with multiplayer, okay, then please let us know. Send a message, and hopefully that can get fixed then, and then we'll all be happy. So, for example, to give you an idea, I don't know if you guys know the Laser General Challenge. So the really nice, cool Laser General Challenge where he has like all fortified and stuff. That one tends to crash. I don't know if there's some mappers here or people who are into scripting and stuff. There's some weird things that happen on that map. I know randomly at one point, like 6 power plants disappear. I'm not making it up. They just randomly disappear. So if some people can sort out like why that crashes, for example, and then find a solution, make a fix for that map, then we can already integrate that as well when we do our first release. Now, that's an example of something that is not directly linked with C++ or the code. But yeah, that is something that ideally we fix, because game crashes of any type are very frustrating. The same applies to any other type of bugs that you might see. Even if there's like a typo somewhere in the main menu or something like that, any sort of thing that can be fixed that will not break compatibility in multiplayer is very much sought after.
Somebody
You
also asked. Excuse me?
Yeah? No, tell me.
And somebody asked also, I know I asked this before, but would one of the content creators consider making a YouTube guide on the code so that new people new to this would have an easier time understanding how it all comes together?
Probably not. You can follow Tsetson's dev vlogs, where he goes over things, and I would suggest that you would do that. At this point, I don't think there's much to gain by trying to educate the general public, let's say, on how to approach these things. We're actually already looking for people who are, happy to take a coffee on a Saturday morning and just browse through the code and learn how everything's working together and stuff like that. If we're going to have to make videos and then explain things and stuff, I think it we'll be spending too many man hours doing those things rather than actually getting to the point of fixing the game.
One note on this topic. So there are already some, if you go to the network graph of the Electronic Arts repository, then you can see like which repositories are active. It's accessible through the Insights tab. Insights, and you see the network graph. And there you can check like who is like actively contributing right now. So there are some contributors like Jay Marshall, for example, who already upgraded the DSP files to the newer Visual Studio 2022 solution and projects, and fixed all the roadblocks to get it compiling and already start fixing random things here and there. So you can already take one of these kinds of repositories and just try it out and just like have it compile and see like what you can already do and or what you want to test or something like this. I know, for example, Hunfield is already testing with debug builds for whatever he wants to do with it. So I think that's good to like get acquainted with the code a bit, to understand, to just try it out and enjoy it as well, of course. For the super, I lost my voice here. For the Super Hackers repository, we are much slower than the competition, so to say. We want to we will put a guide in text when everything is figured out with a CMake setup, and then you can read it up there. But of course, I can also make a video on YouTube where I just show it how I set up it with CMake and how I make it compile and everything, and how I run it and how I symlink the files to make it run then with the game files. It should be rather straightforward once we have it all figured out.
Okay, and what's the progress of that right now?
The progress is that Omniblade is taking a day off today, and we'll probably continue next week with improving the library setup and the CMake setup. The first goal we have is to compile it with Visual Studio 6 without touching any source files. So that would be the first goal, and then afterwards we will upgrade to Visual Studio 2022, and then next things we can look into trying to compile it for x64, but that will be a bit more complicated because then we cannot use some of the DLLs that are currently necessary to use, the MSS.dll and Bink DLL, because they are 32-bit targeted. So there's a bit of work to do then as well. Yeah, another topic, of course, is cross-platform, but yeah, these are things that are not important for the first goals. I think once we have it compiling with a modern compiler, CMake setup, then I think we are already in a good position, and then we can also start looking into next steps. There is a bigger topic I just want to raise that I linked earlier in this chat, and that's about decisions we may want to make early regarding the structure of the repository, like if we want to touch anything there. So like there are pain points as to like, okay, there are many folders with huge amount of files. There is a split of include and source files that's unpleasant. Some other things like wild uppercase, lowercase, and file names, which will break definitely cross-compiling because Linux is not as forgiving as Windows is with mismatching uppercase, lowercase when the include is mismatching the file name. So we need to figure out if we want to do anything, or like code formatting. That's also a topic. But the problem is if we like make too drastic changes, then any merges in the future with other repositories or the original Electronic Arts repository might be more complicated, right? So we need to make a good decision. So maybe we should have a meeting dedicated to this with some programmers or with all programmers to figure out what we want to do and if we want to do at all. Yeah, but this should be something we decide very early.
Yeah, I
It's
agree. I think that's
also-
good.
Oh,
Yeah, go
sorry.
ahead, Arctic.
I think it's also important to hear when 1.05 will drop on GitHub, right? Because I heard CC Hyper said that that will also make its way up, just to not have to do any double work if we are going to restructure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can already sort of get started with planning things on our side, the community side, because I mean, you know, planning we can already get started on. Yeah, I guess that would be useful to know. I don't know. Is CC Hyper? Is he still here? Yeah, he is. I don't know if he can give a rough estimate. I don't know if he's allowed to. Oh, it says several people are typing. Let's see what he says there. But yeah, I do think that it's a good idea for us to plan, and I think we can do that in the coming days, right? I think it's also important for OmniBlade and the others, if they have a nice way to compile everything with the use of modern Visual Studio, modern compilers, that would be very useful as well.
Yeah, he's saying as long as you keep your fork linked to the EA GitHub, you should be able to rebase on top of it. Maybe if I push it to a new branch, Zezon instead. Oh, you ping Zezon.
Yeah, but like roughly when do you think the 1.05 will be fully completed, or at least the update will come through? Roughly, like just for us to get an idea. If you can tell us, because I don't know.
Months.
Oh, 1 to 2 months. Okay, well, then I think we can already get started on our end, right?
Guess so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's understandable. Okay. No, then I guess we'll do that. So it sets on. We'll probably stay in touch, and like we'll see. Yeah, I think it's important if we have those meetings and also have a way to have the modern compiler, modern Visual Studio usage, because I think that in itself will already just make things so much easier than having to use ancient versions of Visual Studio and trying to get that stuff running. Okay, are there any other questions, Tanso or Arctic or RVB? Do you want to say something?
I don't know if we want to go through the high-level concept of what we're thinking to do, and at least, yeah, that would be my only point.
Yeah.
CC Hyper just said earlier, you might all like to know that this weekend has performed very well on Steam with a discounted deal, and it's looking like everyone at EA is going to be very happy with how the whole launch and release has gone. Well done to you all for keeping the game, the hype going. You guys in this community rock. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I guess that's good, you know. I mean, let's be honest. If EA is happy with this, then hey, that's good as well. You know, it's I'm happy to hear it. We're very happy that the source code is made available. So, yeah, sounds like everybody's winning from this. So that's good.
That's very important. Sorry. Will the community patch be available to download via Steam, or do we have to download it from another source like GitHub or whatever?
Theoretically, we can look into having it added to the Steam Workshop. I don't know if that's going to be possible. I don't know if CC Hyper can say something about that yet either. But you know, we're gonna pester CC Hyper as much as possible. You know, we're gonna hopefully we can get it there. If we can't, then we can't. Worst case, it can get distributed via GenPatcher, or we can make it for manual download as well. But yeah, like I said, guys, this is the most important thing for you to understand. We want to be very community oriented and community focused. So if you think, they better not do that because that's against, you know, what the community would want, then we're probably not going to do that. So we don't want to split people off. We don't want to alienate. We want to be as inclusive as possible. So these kind of questions, the answer is yes, we will find a way to get the community patch to everyone. And if we can't, then we will do whatever we can to get it done anyway. So, you know, there's that. But yeah, back to what RVB said, just kind of like a high level overview. I see some other people have joined in the meantime. Basically, step one is we're going to sort out everybody who's signed up. We have a bunch of developers, we have a bunch of mappers, a bunch of scripters, this and the other. We're going to sort everybody out. Then we're going to create a whole list of tasks that we would like to work on and have done for the first release of the patch. And then we're going to see how we can work together with super hackers as well. And because I'm sure that the things that we're looking at, super hackers will also be interested in having fixed. So we're going to work together as a bunch. We're going to share manpower and resources so that we speed up the development process. In the meantime, if there are other bugs, like I gave the example of the Laser General map that has a crash bug in it, if there's anything else where non-programmers can also make their mark and help, then we'll do that. And all of that will be focusing on the first release. So the first release is going to be bug fixes, crash fixes, improving the stability of the game as much as possible, adding diagnostics. So if something goes wrong, we see more information as to what happened, why it went wrong, things like that, which will also help with development efforts in the future. That is going to be step one, okay? And we're going to retain compatibility with 1.04, 1.05. That is step one. This is step two, is that we will look into introducing larger features, such as new multiplayer servers, or game engine upgrades and things like that. But that is the future, okay? Even balance, eventually we'll tackle it, but that's stuff in the future. So that's not what's on our radar right now. Right now, we want to just take the game as it is, improve it, and get a new version out for you guys to download and enjoy. That is step one for us. Is that what you meant, RVB?
Indeed. And we've a lot of data to gather. We've a lot of people to talk to, a lot of requirements to get. So it will also take time, and how we approach the first couple of versions will be critical, especially if you want to keep the momentum from the release.
Did we want to get some people up into the stage for questions, or are we going to do that later?
Well, I don't actually. I mean, we could add some people to the stage, but I think we're seeing quite a bit of repeat questions and things that we basically already have the answers and said the answers to. Mm-hmm. So if you have someone in mind specifically, then we can get them up here, but, you know.
No, not specifically. I just saw that some people have requested to speak a few times. I was just looking out for them.
Yeah, but Tanso, you've been keeping an eye on the text as well, right? In case somebody writes some questions. Okay, so guys, if you have a question, then if it's a complicated question, just write it out in the chat right now, and we'll see if we can get you up here. But basically,
ping me, please.
Yeah, ping Tanso. Yeah, because there's also some people just posting memes and stuff. I know it's funny and stuff. We're also trying to get some progress here. Mamo says, got a question regarding funding and organization. Currently, when it comes to funding, it's not that we need money. We are working fully on voluntary basis. No one's getting paid a dime. There have been some people who have donated. I know that. Some people have donated to Community Outpost directly. Some people donated to me on stream. And I still have to forward that money to Community Outpost, but I will. The thing is that we've looked into some software, for example, that needs licenses, but we're probably not going to use that after all. But for example, if there is money available, then it makes it easier for us to say, okay, we're going to use this software anyway. What we will do with potential funding that comes in at this stage is unclear, but we do want everyone to stay working on voluntary basis, because if we have literally 100 people working on this, how are we going to divide money? Even legally, it's going to become complicated. So as much as it's useful and helpful, for now, I don't think it's actually necessary. We might host servers in the near future. I suspect we will. And then for that, some money will be useful, but it's not like we need thousands of dollars to cover those kind of costs. So we'll see where things go. For now, our focus is more like, oh my God, we have the source code. What are we going to do? How are we going to improve the game? Rather than, funding related things. But yeah, that is also something that we'll just deal with over time. Yeah, CC Hyper says, please make sure you follow the CNC community guidelines. There are a couple of points which draw out approved format for donations related to anything in the CNC community. Yeah, so there's also that. So we got to be very careful how we navigate that, guys. It's not as simple as, hey, I like what you guys are doing. I want to buy you a beer. Here, everybody gets $10. It's a little more complicated from a legal standpoint. And we do want to be like super clean and super smooth when it comes to legal things. We don't want to mess up, make any mistakes. So yeah. Are there any other things, or Arctic, Tanso, RVB, Tsetson, any points that we still should discuss or bring up?
Well, we have another couple of questions flying in right here. I'm just trying to organize them. Okay. So there's a couple of technical things. There is DM Green, who also wants to be probably speaking on his own behalf because he has a couple of questions and he didn't list them. So maybe we can make him a speaker.
Sure. Just let me tag him.
DM Green.
Okay, and then I can do invite to speak. Okay, there we go. He should be notified.
And while he asks his question, maybe.
Hello everyone. My microphone is okay?
Yep, all good.
Okay. I would like to speak on behalf of people of various roles. For example, people who do not know C++ or do not really have a good internal knowledge of game workings. I would like to propose, because we already gathered on Community Outpost Discord, to create 3 channels. Here, additional ones. The first one would be for textures and model work. And in the pins, I would like to add some more information about the work that were already done on that front, so that new people could join the channel, check the pins, and see and learn how to do textures work, how to do models, and share their experience there. The second channel is sounds, and basically it's the same the same template as a textures one, and so people who could work with sound, because there are not that many of them, but they can really help us improve the voice lines, improve the music, maybe have some other ideas. And the third channel is the text/localization changes for people who want to help with fixing localization and some text lines of the game, or people who want who know some exotic language. For example, I did not meet a person who knows Korean or speaks Chinese traditional to help me with my work, and some changes needs to be checked by native speakers or people who know those languages. So it would be really helpful to have this third channel where people who know different languages can meet up and check on the changes and to share their ideas on localization work. Thank you for having me speaking here, and I hope that Cezanne will find a brand new Ferrari in his driveway soon.
Nice. Well, I can help answer that. You mentioned like textures and models and stuff. I know that the super hackers have already done some work in that regard. So that is that ties back with the whole thing of we have to discuss with the super hackers how we're going to set things up, how we're going to put our efforts and focus and things like that. I'm sure there's still lots more work to be done regarding textures and models and things like that. But again, it's important that whatever we do, we keep compatibility with 1.04. So I'm sure that many textures can be updated, but I don't know if all of them can, and the same for the models. I'm sure some models here and there can be updated, but maybe not everything. So we got to map that out a little bit and work together with the super hackers.
Oh, my microphone was off. Or I see some lag. I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question, please?
Right now, we'll have to work together with the super hackers to see where they are with this, because they already started with the texture and model work and things like that. So they already have some work done. So we'll work together with them and see what has been done, what still needs to be done, how we can integrate things together smoothly, and how to continue working from there. So it's not that we have to start from scratch with that one, because they've already done a lot of stuff on that.
I can give some words about this, so you have a little bit of an overview. So regarding sounds, so there are two categories. There are mission sounds and there are multiplayer related sounds, right? So when you select units, they talk, or the EVA sounds when the general speaks, we are under attack, and so all the multiplayer related sounds, all the unit sounds, they have all been polished to the point where all the humming, all the crackling, every dirt in the sounds is gone, which is 1,500 sounds or so. So that's all done. The single player sounds, not yet. We didn't touch any of these, and they are much more, and they're much longer. They're like they talk like a minute, and they just keep on talking. So there's a lot of dirt in the single player sounds, but the multiplayer sounds, they are crystal clear, the best we could get it. Maybe there's an opportunity to do something with AI audio processing on the single player sounds, so maybe try to clean them up this way nowadays. I'm not so sure. For the other sounds, we did it by hand with advanced tools, and that has worked well. But yeah, maybe AI can help a lot, because doing it by hand can also be very tedious. Regarding textures, there has been a lot of progress for all the factions and also all civilian textures. I think overall we probably have fixed 2,000 textures. 2,000, yeah, roundabout. I still have 600 on my local drive, which I have not yet managed to make pull requests for. Some are being stuck in pull requests. So textures, I mean, they're not critical. Textures can be changed without compatibility issues. It's no problem at all. The common issues with textures are the damage state models between different damage states of buildings are totally mismatching. So a building looks wrong from one damage state to another, like inconsistent damages. Snow textures have a lot of bugs. Snow draws over damages, or the other way around, and it's a complete mess. Or some textures are missing, or the night textures have a lot of bugs where the light is like totally mismatching from one state to another, or it's too dark, or the light is not where it's supposed to be, stuff like this. So yeah, there's a lot of problems, but a lot of it has been polished already. Maybe there can be a handover to complete this effort, because I haven't been able to finalize this. So if there's a texture artist that wants to pick up the pieces, but yeah, it also needs to be documented, the leftover thing. So 600 files still left to push. The other stuff is documented, and then there's still this whole unknown category for us of models fixes, which we haven't dared to touch yet, because the problem is we are not so fond of moving binary files of the models into the repository, because it will be hard to revision these things and hard to see exactly what was changed in there. It's already bad enough for the textures, which are binary. And so what we want to build is new tools to convert them to XML format, all the models, and then that we can actually like have plain text versions in the repository. So that will allow us to fix many things and discover many things by hand with text editors and with scripts. And yeah, so I think there's a lot of issues with the models as well, like the faction units, the faction buildings, and also all the civilian buildings. They have a plethora of issues. So there's a lot of stuff to polish, but it's all in the realms of minor improvements, I would say. There are probably also some bug fixes with the models here and there, but it's mostly polishing. But I think it's a great addition to a patch, at least optionally. It doesn't need to be in the core release of a patch. It can be optional. And yeah, I think there's great value in having this in the future, in a longer term goals, where like everything gets prettier and more polished, and 0 Hour does not just play well, but also looks a little bit better and also sounds a little bit better. I can offer to make like a presentation perhaps sometime in the future where I go over repository and show you how you can run it, how you can test it with the tools that we currently have. And maybe also give an overview of like the structure of what is there, and then yeah, but you can also already look at it.
It says on the CC Hyper in chat is asking if you would like some additional information about how the W3X format works. Apparently, he might have some more.
That
Internal info, he says.
I cannot decline this information.
Very understandable. But yeah, back to the question from DM Green also regarding localizations. Regarding localization right now, that is also something that is not going to be seen as a priority. So that is something that's also going to be in the future. So there's a bucket full of great ideas, and it says in the future, and that is also in the bucket. You know, multiplayer is in there, balance is in there. There's a lot of stuff. We'll eventually get to it, definitely, but at this stage in time, it's not going to be a priority, because there's a good chance we'll still add things to the UI, change things in the UI. You know, eventually, once everything's a little more stable in that regard, yes, we'll probably do more languages, more localizations, and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I think there's Martin T who has a question as well, right?
Yeah, hello. It's
Hello.
not much of a question. It's more like I have been working with Dominator and a lot of people in the community, some pro players, and we're making a leaderboard system with ranking and elo and all that. And it's been kind of in the shadows just to release it soonish. But now when all this is released, I don't know if it's obsolete or whatever, but we have a lot of like calculations on elo and passing of replays and stuff like that we might be able to use if anyone is interested having like ranking system in game. We could work together, so just hit me up and we could do like login system in game, and we could convert the website to an API instead and have extra stats and stuff like that. So if you're interested in making multiplayer great, just hit me up. have a lot of
Yep.
stuff done already.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Sounds good.
Yeah,
When we
yeah.
get to it, we'll surely contact you and see what we can do there.
Otherwise,
Yep,
do you
great.
already have the community contributor role?
Yeah, he
Do
has.
you- Okay, well then you can hold that thought for a second, and then we can talk about it in these channels later on.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, when we get to multiplayer, then for sure we'll message you and hope to have you involved as well and get your opinion on these things and how we can work things together. I've spoken privately with Martin T as well a little bit, the guy who just asked the question. And the idea would be really cool because you could have like in game, you can see your stats as you've played, your wins, your losses. And then also there would just be a website. So, you know, on your phone, you can just check and you can see other players. So, you know, these are just some ideas of what we'll be able to do in the future as well. And then have everything just nicely integrated directly with the game through the community patch.
Yeah, it would be great to have it just like back in the day with when GameSpy was a thing. Would you just logged into the client and then you played?
I mean, a
Yeah, but this would
collaboration-
be a massive upgrade.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course, of
collaboration
course.
would be actually really great because maybe we can also add things to replay files that might actually be very useful for such a use case, like actually the game saving the win-loss data into the replay as well.
Yeah, I mean that's not fully needed. I'm already doing that from the replay, but we'll get into detail later, I guess.
Cool.
Are there any other things that we need to cover specifically? I think we've kind of set our plan, right? And got the message across of our next steps, right?
Of course, I have a bunch of questions, but if there's nothing more to
Yeah, sure.
somebody is asking because of, for example, like last year's World Championship or World Series. It's not very clear about the size of the prize pool. Maybe that's also like directed at CC Hyper as a question. What are prize pools that are fine for these kind of events before we get into trouble legally?
Oh, right. Yes, because apparently somewhere it says on an EA website somewhere that prize pools cannot go above $10,000. Wasn't that that's the thing, right? That he's referring to.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, so apparently somewhere on some webpage, somewhere on the website of EA, it says something like communities, if they host their own tournaments, they shouldn't use a prize pool larger than $10,000. And some people were a bit uneasy because the World Series had a prize pool of, I think it was $12,000 or something. Or 14,000, yeah. And that is, you know, above 10,000. So it's like, yeah, can we get into trouble? I don't know. To be honest, that statement from EA that's on the website, this is just my opinion as one person, okay? Just don't take it out of context or something. I think it's just one of those blanket statements where they don't want some big industry to then just put like 100,000 prize pool something, you know? Like, if it's just literally community the way we're doing it, I can't imagine that EA is like, oh, look at these guys, we must chase them, sue them, and all that stuff. I can't imagine that happening. I don't know if CC Hyper can give an official response, but
It would be
it would be,
smart to stick within the limit, yeah. But I think we're good.
but I think you're good. Yeah, so it would be smart not to go over 10,000, but probably it's not going to be a huge issue. I mean, it depends. If we actually get a prize pool of, let's say, $50,000, then yeah, okay, I can start to see like EA might be like, wait a minute, but you know, like 14,000, yeah, probably fine. We split it. Make sure it never goes over 10,000. Says Spread. Yeah, we'll just literally do multiple tournaments. Keep splitting it. We go. The prize pool will be $9,999, guys, every time.
Many World Series a year, yeah. What else? Okay, will fixes from the Super Hacker repository be transferred in some way to community patch? What are the differences between the Super Hacker project and the new community patch anyway? Is it even needed in the future?
So basically, the super hackers, from what I understand, Setson, correct me if I'm wrong, their focus is purely on the game. and then the community outpost based patch project is going to use those advancements and continue to build on top of it. So community outpost is going to be diverting manpower to the super hackers as well in order to help get the game all shiny. And then we will add more features and more things that kind of deviate from what you would imagine is the core game itself. So when we add more features, add more things like, for example, if we integrate our own servers, let's say, then that is technically something separate from the super hackers. So those kind of things that will just be on the community patch thing. So I think that answers the question there. So super hackers is purely the game, and then any like other features or add-ons and things will be community outpost, the community patch. And the community patch is ultimately what will be like the compiled version that will be distributed to people. That is what people will download, because community patch will be on top of the work of the super hackers repo. Right? That's it, right?
Yeah, I think that also goes hand in hand with the next question. I think you kind of answered this already. What do you guys think of a shared documentation of shared knowledge about the source code, and what if it makes it easier for anyone else who haven't looked there, so they can look upon it and basically make a shared understanding of it? So I think, yeah, we're gonna probably share.
If you're looking at just the source code for the game, then all of that will be under super hackers. That's the easiest way to explain it, because super hackers will focus just on the game.
Super Hackers has a dedicated repository that is dedicated to documentation. I heard that there was some ideas about creating a wiki underneath that. But I think that work hasn't started yet, so it's purely hypothetical. But I know people are looking at it.
Yeah. Somebody's also asking for the reason why we need two different repositories and why we can't just have it in one.
Because if anybody else wants to build on top of the game engine, purely the game engine, and do their own little things, and they can fork the super hackers repository and make the changes there. So think of Shockwave, for example. Let's say the guys of Shockwave, the mod, are like, I kind of want to put Shockwave on a more stable version of the game engine. They can fork super hackers, put all the Shockwave files there, maybe do some Shockwave specific things as well, tie it all in together, compile it, release it, and you have a beautiful version of Shockwave. And the idea is that we, with the community patch, will be also just adding a bit like some other features and stuff, and maybe Shockwave wouldn't want that. So that's why it's good to have the option for people to fork in that sense.
My recommendation here is to first define the scope of what you would like to have in the first release, and that should make clearer like how you would want to kick it off. I mean, there are two parts. You have the game code pass and then the data pass part. So right now the state of the data patch in Super Hackers repository is unfit as is right now for the minimum rollout of a small like upgrade that fixes some of the big things, because it does change a lot of game state, which is incompatible with 1.04. So it cannot be used as is. There would be the possibility of a strategy where we say, okay, we compile out certain of the certain changes, like controversial changes and all the game state changes, but it would be like a bit bigger change. Like if you really want to have like small start, then maybe it also makes sense to like have a new repository and then cherry pick the general structure and then cherry pick select changes, because all the changes they are so you can like go back in the history and you can cherry pick some of the fixes, but you need to be careful. You need to test everything that it doesn't introduce a game state mismatch, so, which might not be obvious. Maybe there's some tricky thingies that you think, oh, that wouldn't cause a mismatch, but then you run it and it might. So I think we need to understand what kind of things will cause mismatches, maybe document this, maybe there needs to be a lot of testing. Maybe there needs to be a bit of diving into the code, and maybe some debugging can help with this. Maybe some logging. Maybe there's some techniques. I'm not so sure about this. It's tricky. So you need to be very careful. So I think there's a great complexity actually in this desire of being compatible with 1.04 in unexpected ways, because you need to be very careful.
Yeah.
So right now the repository is a bit too rich in content for a small product, let's say.
Okay, well, that's one of those things that we'll sort out in the coming days, and how we can best tackle that. Yeah, we do really want to retain that 1.04, 1.05 compatibility. And I'm sure that a lot of the work that you have done there with that data repository, I'm sure that a lot of it will still be compatible. But yes, we need to find and be absolutely sure that what we release will remain compatible. And yeah, we'll have a bunch of testers as well. Let me see how many testers have signed up. We have 24. So in total, we should be able to pump in a lot of man hours in testing to verify that everything's okay. And I do believe that that is possible to do. So yeah, we'll sort this in the coming days, and we'll map things out in that regard. I think that's a good idea.
For the coming days, is it planned to organize the dev teams and ideas via GitHub projects or another program?
We're still looking into potential management software. What is the best way forward? But currently, it's looking like it's going to be mostly on GitHub, right, Arctic? We decided most likely it's going to be that, right?
Yep. I mean, Red versus Blue hasn't worked with GitHub before, but I think you'll find a way.
We'll work through the pains of that. I think what's critical is getting out a concept roadmap for what type of patches we want to deliver and how we keep commonality. And then, of course, as Cezanne very well explained, we need to look at everything that's been there from a game perspective and how do we port that. And commonality then becomes a topic of how do we keep it, yes or no. So we need to understand the roadmap and we need to build that out. And I think with the people who've advertised themselves as highly technical in C++, we'll probably have to have some separate sessions and identify what level we drill down to and cluster certain activities together, like mapping or importing existing functionality like GenPatcher and GenTool into the game code. And these are things we will need to if we want mass adoption for the community in large. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll get that sorted. As I'm sure you guys can imagine, this is, the source code is big news, big changes, and I could tell you, man, Setson and I have been speaking and interacting with easily hundreds of people within the past few days. There's a lot of people with a lot of ideas, a lot of plans, a lot of work has already gone into all this stuff. And we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to get even better, even more organized. So right now, there's some priorities that will happen. One priority is collaboration with super hackers and tightly integrating and working together, helping each other. Another thing is having it nice and easy to compile the code and have it work on modern Visual Studio, things like that. Yes, we're going to look into setting things up probably on GitHub and how we're all going to have that happen. We're also going to be communicating with people to see who's interested in team leads, who's interested in tackling certain issues as such, and maybe form small teams and work together like that. So you can see there's a lot of stuff that's happening. It's only been since Thursday, man. Thursday, the news came out. You can see we are assembling, we're mobilizing, and we're going to keep doing that. So when I say, in the coming days, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, then it really is. Like every day there is progress. So probably in a week from now, a lot of the things that we're sorting out now will already be done. We'll also have more meetings in the future. The meetings in the future will not be here, not on this stage. So this is this chat text channel category things called the Outpost. There's the stage, that's where we're all at right now. The next one is most likely going to be in the community patch category, and that is only accessible to people who are devs. In part, it's to kind of move things along for us. So we are only going to be having meetings with people who want to work on the project, as opposed to people who right now are just coming in curious and asking some questions and stuff. The focus will be on being a bit more efficient with the meetings as well. And we'll probably get a lot more people to speak then and things like that. So this is more like a bit of an introductory meeting as to what our plans are, where we're going, our next moves in the very, very near future. And then, yeah, we're going to probably move things over there. So if you have signed up to become a developer, or if you have signed up to help with the community patch project and you don't have the role, then please do let us know. Some people didn't put in their right Discord account. They literally put in an email. They didn't put the right Discord account. So then we can't give you the role because you gave the wrong Discord account. So check your email because as far as I know, Arctic has contacted you and let you know. But yeah, I think that's basically everything that we need to discuss on this first meeting, right? RVB, Tanso, Tetson, Arctic, anyone? Have anything else?
I still have a lot of questions here written
Oh,
down.
okay.
So,
All right.
we can maybe start with that, but yeah, I think that concludes the main thing.
Yeah, if you, yeah, so we can just do some questions. Guys, again, please ask questions that actually are like unique questions. Don't be like, oh, can we have this feature? Yes, we can have that feature. You know, because otherwise we'll have so many questions. But okay, go ahead, Patsy.
I think it's good you brought that up. Sorry to interrupt, because maybe we should have a page somewhere in a wiki that with a lot of these frequently asked questions that we can just point people towards, because if we get the same question 100 times, I mean, that also
Yeah, but then people need to go on the wiki. They'd much rather ask the question, man. We need to create a Discord bot that literally tells them just yes. Every question mark that's detected, respond with yes.
Amazing.
But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, later down the line, if balance changes are considered, would there also be an option to just toggle like the bug fixes and keep the balance changes separate?
Yes. Next question.
Very nice. Great. I like how this is done. How will international sanctions impact the organization and work of this project? I'm not sure what is meant by that.
If you're referring to the Russian community, we have no interest in pushing them away or anything. The way we see it is anyone who plays 0 Hour is one of us, and we want to keep everyone happy. But we will be operating from a legal standpoint. To my knowledge, there's nothing that prevents us from interacting with other communities, such as the Russian community or any other community. So we will just happily still interact with them and see what we can do to keep them happy and satisfied as well. I know that, for example, the game is banned in China. I am in touch with some folks in China. Again, if they say, hey, Leggy, would love to have this and this added to the community patch, you know, for Chinese players and stuff, then it's something we'll still look into. We are not going to be pushing anyone out.
Mm-hmm. Somebody says, I know it's a complicated question, but any chance, do you think that EA will try to support you in your journey in the future, like donating, helping with the law stuff? Or is it just up to the community to do whatever they want and now they are fully free? Would it be helpful if they support you, or doesn't it matter at all? Maybe that's also directed at CC Hyper.
Yeah, I think it might be directed at CC Hyper. My understanding, at least from what I've seen and everything and heard and everything, this is really a gift given to us and we can do whatever we want with it. But I don't think we can say like, oh, do we also get this support? Do we also get that support? Most likely it's in the community's hands now and it's up to us to make it something. So I doubt we're going to have like EA shouting us out or doing things like that, because it can also very quickly result into something complicated from a legal standpoint. So yeah, CC Hyper says pretty much there's not going to be support from EA in the foreseeable future. Some people are doing like tear emoji on it. I honestly don't agree with that, because we've already been given the source code, guys. This is the biggest gift, and you know, at some point we should be able to say, you know what, we'll stand on our own 2 feet, we'll make this happen, and this is literally it. So I'm quite happy and grateful that we are in this position in the first place. And I don't think it's realistic to expect more from EA at this point. It could be that EA in the future would host their own tournaments, let's say, hypothetically, and then we can be involved. But I don't think that EA will come to us and want to be involved with us. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, but we'll see. But honestly, where things are right now, I'm already very happy, and I think many others are as well.
Okay. Before we get into the slightly more technical stuff that's also directed at Zezon, there was Memo wanting to have a minute on the stage, if that's possible.
Yeah, sure.
If he's still here.
Yeah, you could just tag him, and then you can right mouse click his name when you tagged him. Like, that's 10 times easier than trying to find the display picture.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Mamo, how you doing, man?
Hello, everyone. So basically, I have a lot of experience in marketing and event manager. And December 2024, I contacted the Red Bull Gaming. I contacted the co-founder and CPO of Red Bull Gaming for the gaming and event manager, Philip Haas, in Munich, in Germany. And I had a long conversation with him. So and he's not allowed. He was willing to, and he says it's no problem when we do community tournaments. But because of one line of Electronic Arts EA guideline, which prohibits sponsors from energy drinks, they are not allowed to sponsor us. So
Okay.
will EA then leave us alone completely, and we can legally hire those companies to support and sponsor us, or will they still make fuss about it? Which companies are sponsoring? Which companies are helping us?
Yeah, but
So-
wait. You said there's a guideline saying not allowed. Like, what's the guideline specifically? Do you have a link to it, maybe?
It's he's right. There is a guideline that energy company drinks are not allowed to sponsor. That's correct.
Right,
Yeah,
but they're not allowed to sponsor any community efforts within the games?
So the prohibited sponsors and partners are energy drinks, alcohol companies, tobacco and cigarettes, and so on. So I can test this.
That's mainly targeted at tournament sponsors, right? So not, I don't know how that would affect an effort like
They are
this.
not allowed to host or help us with any organizational or any marketing or any sponsor or any tournament events whatsoever. So he
Yeah.
just told me to get a legal allowance from EA to do it. Then they are happy to do it. But at that point, I had no hope of contacting EA whatsoever. But with this open source, are they leaving us alone completely on this end?
Well,
Or stuff?
I think it's very important that we understand that what we have received here, we've received the source code, which is a big, massive thing. I don't think it's a good idea for us to then respond back and say, haha, we're going to do this anyway. You know, if EA has a guideline saying that, hey, tournaments in our games should not promote energy drinks, then I think the conversation just ends there, and we just tell Red Bull, okay, sorry, it's not going to happen, and we look for another sponsor if we do so. Maybe snacks are allowed, you know, we get some cookie company to get involved. I don't know. But I think the conversation pretty much ends there. I don't think it's possible for us to even request EA to just scratch that off. And yeah.
Sissy Hyper just said, yeah, I would not mess around with those guidelines. Those cover all EA IP products.
Oh, but
Yeah.
by the way, cookie companies are also not allowed because high fat, salt, or sugar food and drink companies.
Yeah,
are also
a
not
lot
allowed.
of like basically like everything is not allowed.
Then we get vegan cookies with, you know, made of mushrooms, and then it's fine.
Yeah, but those are products that compete with EA, right? Because that they promote way too healthy lifestyle, no?
Well, I mean, it is actually seeing the list, seeing how extensive the list is. With my knowledge of YouTube, this is actually quite interesting because on YouTube you can choose what type of ads you will serve to your viewers, and alcohol, tobacco, gambling, those are all literally in there. So you can switch those off. But I'm sure the vast majority of YouTubers don't do that. So if YouTubers are casting like a tournament game, then theoretically, right, they are actually violating this. Just, you know, just food for thought. Funny, but But yeah, I don't think we should mess around with this, to be honest. If they say we don't want energy drinks, then we say okay, and then we just accept that we don't have that ability, that position. You said you had some more questions?
No, that's it. But okay.
Okay.
But for me, if you need any marketing, any event management stuff, you can come to me, and I will try help you with it.
Okay, sounds good, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Then we have some technical stuff left, or a bit more technical stuff. Question for Zezon: where's the CMake PR?
That's in /superhackers, the superhackers / generals game code. Maybe someone can copy paste it into the chat. It's work in progress. I have it compiling locally. In principle, it works. The debug build crashes for me for some reason. Haven't been able to debug yet, but yeah, we want to make more improvements, and so it's not yet ready. But you can, as I said, you can maybe just if you just want to test around a bit, you can maybe fork Jay Marshall's fork, and with Visual Studio 2022, and already have a go at this one. I think he has it working, and I think there are also some 2 or 3 other repositories that you can also use. Yeah. But yeah, I will put a note, a visible note, once we have the build pipeline all ironed out and everything is good, and then we can talk about next steps. Yeah. One note, I think we need to talk a bit more about like how changes flow from the root towards the products that then get pushed to the community. So my expectation probably will be that you have like repositories where people come together and they push like the cutting edge changes, but then you have more conservative repositories that Legionnaire and the community outposts will manage, where they cherry pick the stuff that they need for the next release, right? And so basically they go slower than maybe what is there, right? So that is probably a strategy that is very reasonable, because if you start too swiftly, then maybe it won't be compatible anymore.
Yeah. No, well, yeah, go ahead.
The last thing we want is, of course, people who have a shiny new version of the game to go on Game Ranger and be disappointed that every game that they open just mismatches, right?
Yeah, that would be quite the nightmare scenario. But yeah, no, we'll work these things out. Basically, any sort of fixes that can happen on the Super Hackers repo that will not impact compatibility, like that is going to be great, and we'll be working together and sending resources to that as well to help speed things along. Work together with how you guys would be happy to see those changes, and that's something that will just happen in the coming days, I imagine. These kind of discussions, potential meetings about it, and how we would map it out. But basically, the idea is that Super Hackers will have that good, clean version of the game engine and the game assets and stuff like that, and others can build on it. But like you said already, we need to go over the data repo, as some things are not 100% compatible. So we'll do that in the coming days. We'll get that sorted.
Yeah, I also got word from Dominator that he is interested in gathering a council of expert players and review all the controversial changes that are currently there, in an effort to figure out what's good or bad from the perspective of the elite.
Yeah, there's one thing that I do want to add to that, and I think this is very important to understand. Experts and top players are, of course, very important, but they are one group of player, and any type of balance thing has to be taken very seriously, because if some balance gets changed, let's say the rocket buggy is suddenly made faster or slower, that could then have an impact on the mission maps where cinematics stop working and things like that. So, or single player people might not be happy with those changes or things like that. So if like once the thing of balance gets tackled, we're going to have to move quite slowly and chat with a lot of people, do a lot of research, and probably have ways to have it in beta mode first to see the responses of people before we do any sort of thing where we push it to the general public or something like that. At least that's a vision I think that might be safer to go for. So as much as a team of experts for sure is needed to give their opinions and stuff, they aren't the only people that need to be consulted. So it's going to be a massive task to get balance tackled. But like I said, that is something that from the community patch side, it's going to be something way later. Like you guys, I think you're going to start with that a lot sooner, right? With super hackers.
Sorry, what was the question?
With the balance, you guys are already looking into that, right? With super hackers.
Well, right now there is no focus on this front.
Okay.
There was a lot of time spent on certain aspects in various for various factions, for all the factions. But no, right now there is no. Actually, I didn't submit anything for 2 months to this repository. But yeah, it has been over time. We did a lot of things. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I basically have to go in about 5 minutes. So I don't know if there are more questions or some things to round off.
Or we can skip over these things. I think they're too technical for all the people here to understand. I think. Well, this is just going to be for some category. Should we come up with?
There's one more thing I would like to mention. Since we talked about, I forgot it. Since we talked about the expert players, and that's not the only voice that counts. And I very much agree with this. I think everyone's opinion, noob or pro, is valuable. But of course, there is of course a discrepancy between the experience, right? We also need to acknowledge this. Now I forgot what my point was. What I wanted to stress is that I think there is big value in not just theorize about changes, but to actually test them and play it and experience it. Because I have seen it a lot in the past that there was a lot of discussion about certain things, but not really hands-on, see how it looks, test it, and make an opinion based on how it actually runs and works. So I would say to everyone, be open-minded and try to be, try to figure out if it plays good, and then give your feedback. But don't be upset about it if someone makes a suggestion that maybe for you is too controversial or strange. I mean, everything. There's always a truth to the thing, and people, the collective, will figure out what the right steps are, right?
Yep.
There's just one last question I have, because it also interests me. Should we come up with a system that makes mismatches not stop the game, but rather fix itself on the fly if mismatches ever happen? Like in Age of Empires, when a mismatch happens, it just automatically reloads the match with the state it has had before the mismatch.
Yeah, so about this, also some other people have suggested other things like the ability to save and load multiplayer games. We will look at what is possible, right? We will look at what we can find in the source code. If we can find a way to insta-boot the PC that mismatched and, just have that guy disconnect and the game continues, and let's say there's a way we can make it compatible with 1.04 still, it might theoretically even be possible to do that. If we can find that, then yes, we'll go for that. But at this stage, mismatches is one of those things that is going to need a whole lot of people and a whole lot of coffee before we figure out how everything is linked together, works together, and how we can try and make changes to keep the game working. But yeah, ultimately, guys, mismatches will be fixed. It's not an if, it will be fixed. Question is just when. And maybe we're lucky. We can find some code and, maybe in the first release, it's already there. Unlikely, but we're just going to have to dig deep and see what we can do and see what we can come up with as a group. Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
All right. So yeah, guys, I think I'll be heading off then. I don't know if you guys still want to continue the meeting, because I'm just one guy. You guys all have a lot of knowledge here as well. And I think there's more questions coming in still. Salmanko says this thing doesn't serve us at all, Leggy. Best solution unless complete protection is made. Mismatch system is the best solution. Well, what I know about mismatches is that it takes a bunch of things and looks at the state of them in a way, right? And if one person does not pass the checks, then a mismatch is detected and it closes for everyone. But when a mismatch happens, it is one PC. In most cases, not always, in most cases, it's one PC that causes the mismatch. So that means that if we just kick out that player, whose PC mismatched, then theoretically there might be a chance for the game to continue. And I don't think that is such a bad solution. It sucks when somebody disconnects, but it sucks 10 times more if everybody's forced to stop the game because there's a mismatch and it closes it for everyone. There are cases where mismatches happen with multiple players at the same time. So, for example, let's say you have 5 players playing, then it's possible to have 2 or 3 of the players having a different state all of a sudden at the same time. And this is quite easy to replicate, which is if you play a map and then when you finish playing that map, you switch to another map, right? And the players don't restart their game. Let's say half the players restart the game, the other half don't. And then you play in the new map, then the odds are possible where half the people who didn't restart their game will be causing mismatches. So then it's more than one PC that can cause a mismatch. And in those cases, I don't know what would be the best solution. But again, we just need to look into potential solutions more than anything. And that's our goal. Our goal is to be getting the game to a great state. And the goal is to do it in a way that the community is very happy with it, with a lot of community orientation. I saw a really random statement here by someone. It's like, oh, are you going to ban people from Syria? Like, what? No. Like, guys, like, what are these questions, We're very community oriented all the way, everyone, simply everyone. So, yeah.
And I think people need to be aware. Your suggestions don't mean black or white, yes or no. It's just a stage of timing and effort and compatibility. And those are the variables we need to detail out and figure out together. And just take a couple of steps at a time. But the end goal, of course, should be no mismatches. But how to get there in intervals is what we need to look at while maintaining compatibility and making sure the community is able to upgrade along the way.
Director asked a question there as well. Mismatches can happen at any time. So it's not that the game is predetermined to mismatch. The game state will say everything's okay, and then maybe 10 minutes later, one of the players, something goes wrong, and then a mismatch happens. So that's kind of the problem with mismatches. But we're getting closer and closer to, now that we have the source code, right? We can get closer and closer to figuring out how mismatches work, what we can do to potentially mitigate them, what we can do to prevent them, what we can do in case it goes wrong, if we can still save the match and continue playing. We're just going to have to look into all of that, and we will do so in the coming days, coming weeks. So, yeah, don't worry about that, guys. But anyway, I'll be going then. I'll be off. Again, for those of you who don't have the role, if you have signed up, but you don't have the role to the community patch section, then message myself or Arctic or RVB or Inhibition, who unfortunately couldn't be here in this meeting today at this time because, timing. He's very far away from us, so it's nighttime for him. But yeah, just message and we'll get you sorted. I'm very happy to see how many people signed up. We have 12 people who marked themselves as advanced C++ people. We have 40 people who marked themselves as intermediate C++ people, which is nice. We've got a load of mappers, scripters, QA, a lot of stuff. So we really have a great team to get started with it.